Oh.
Hey! Season 4.
Hello.
Oh.
This is season 4. It's not season 3. It's not season 2 or 1. All right. So, welcome everybody. I know what you're thinking. Season 4? What? Is it really, really real? It is really, really real. It's only been a year and a half since the end of season 3, which is more than we could say for the distance between, right?
Seasons 1 and 2.
Season 1 and 2 and seasons 2 and 3. So consider yourself lucky if you are listening to this today, which we will be posting this tonight. Today it's December 6th.
Yes.
We are getting this first episode of the new season kind of a little early. Kind of, because in Japan it's going to be the 7th, but here it's the 6th. Anyway, works out nicely for us because it's Sunday night. Tonight we normally do the show anyway, and it has gone live on everywhere, right? Crunchyroll.
It's not on Netflix yet,
Funimation.
but it was on Hulu. It was on Crunchyroll, Funimation,
And YouTube.
Yeah,
Oh.
Everybody's got it except for Netflix. Netflix blows apparently. They only have season 1, I think. Pretty sure.
Awkward.
Yeah, super awkward.
Regardless, we're gonna bust through this episode. We're gonna break down all of the things that we saw.
Yep.
We are first-time anime watchers, which means we haven't read any of the manga. We don't know any of the spoilers. We don't know all the ins and outs that
It's all brand new to us.
all those cool people who've read the manga know. So we're giving you our play-by-play breakdown and our theories as the show goes on,
Yep.
as they're developing live. You get to kind of see the effects that somebody's piece of art has on 3 different minds and all the arguments and theories we get to have. And we wanted you to be part of the conversation.
Yep.
We made the show because
Go ahead.
Because
Explain it.
we loved to yell at each other and argue
Over
for
theories.
like hours after we'd watched the show about who was who and where came what and what came who and
Yes, we love to argue.
all the
so
things.
Much fun.
And we're like, man, this is like, I almost have as much fun discussing the show as I do actually watching the show.
Yep,
And
100%.
it makes us feel a lot of things as a good piece of art should. So that's why we made the show. We wanted to communicate with other people who have theories and ideas, all the people who have who are inspired by this awesome piece of art. And so we want to invite you guys to be part of the conversation.
Yes,
Which means
please.
you can email us at beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
Your theories, your ideas. Leave us a comment down in the YouTube place or the Facebook, wherever you're watching, or if you're just listening on podcasts, please drop us a like, subscribe, and give us 5 stars on the Apple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
podcast.
that would be much appreciated. If you've been listening to the show all the way up to this point, 5-star review would be very nice. But yeah, please join in, especially if you're another anime only. I'm actually really curious to see. We have a good many of watchers / listeners who are manga readers, and so they're all holding their tongues while we come up with our crazy theories. But if you're not, if you're anime only, I really want to see what other people are thinking. Yeah, go ahead and email us all of your ideas. So here we are, like I said, episode 60, season 4, episode 1. This one is, what's this one called? The Beyond the Sea?
The other side.
The other side of the sea.
The Other Side of the Sea. So we're going to do a quick recap. If you are listening to this posthumously, if you're listening to it after the fact, there will be no spoiler section in this for this entire season, for all season 4. Up to now, because all the other previous seasons, we've watched them all through, and then we went back and rewatched and did all the episodes. We always had a spoiler section in case somebody wanted to kind of just watch through with us and not like learn what was, connect all the dots to future episodes. That's not going to happen in the season for obvious reasons. We don't know what's going to happen next. So we're just going to say it all out like it is, and then we'll peace out at the end of the episode. Okay, so to recap, which by the way, go check out our YouTube. We will have a seasons 1 through 3 recap that is better than the other recaps. Doggone it, there's some out there, and I'm just like, A, they're either super long, or B, IGN, they suck. Go watch our recap. Okay, episode 60 begins with a character that we don't recognize from any of the previous seasons. We do recognize him from the season 4 trailer, which I watched probably at least a dozen times. I mean, seriously, I watched it a lot of times. I was really looking for hints. In fact, we did a whole breakdown on it
yesterday.
Yeah, same. We did a whole breakdown on it. Go watch that too. So we see a new character, and we're in a totally new scenario. It's like a desert kind of scenario, and we quickly realize that this new character is some kind of young soldier, a young warrior, a Marely and warrior, and he's part of a group, and this group is all potential future warriors, and they're all vying to be to inherit the Armored Titan. We find out that they're in a fight for what's called Fort Slava. This is a war that seems to be unrelated to what's going on in Paradise. We do later learn that the war with Paradise has been essentially put on hold for this is 4 years in the future from where we left off at the end of season 3. So this is a war unrelated. This is a war with another country, between Marely and another country somewhere in the Middle East. We meet, we'll go through them in detail, but we meet several of these new warrior recruits. One of them is named Gabi, and she's very proud of herself. Let's just say that.
She's got a lot of confidence.
Yeah, she
in
does.
herself.
She does, a lot of confidence. She comes up with a plan. They're at this Fort Slava. Fort Slava has a train around it and anti-Titan armaments, so they can't just send in any of the Titan powers that they have. They would risk losing them. So the plan is to send 800 troops in for a charge. They decide not to do that. This Gabi girl decides, hey, give me a chance. I'll go in there with 7 grenades, pretend I'm going to surrender, and she successfully disables the train. Whereupon vast trench warfare begins to break out. A lot of Eldians die. Well, that's another thing we learned, is that this army is composed of many of these like Eldian soldiers, some of whom were even literally suicide bombers.
Mm-hmm. 800 of them.
Yes, 800 of them. So the Eldian charge happens, and what they're doing is they're actually, now that the train is gone, they have made way for an aerial assault, and we finally see some familiar faces. We see Reiner, and we see Zeke, War Chief Zeke, and we've learned from both of them that they are, we assume, at the end of their 13 years as containing their Titan powers, there is already a chosen successor to Zeke to have the Beast Titan. I think it's Colt is the successor, and then a potential successor in this small group for the Armored Titan. So they make So anyway, way's been made. The aerial assault goes down. We see for the first time Zeke transforms a bunch of Eldians with his voice into actual pure Titans, which is insane. Armored Titan jumps in. He kind of fights the fight of his life because they have a bunch of anti-Titan weapons even inside of this fort, but they overcome, they win, the Beast Titan comes down, he picks up a bunch of shells and takes out a bunch of the Navy, and so it ends up being a successful victory, but what's shown in this battle is, the narrator tells us, is that Marely is not as powerful as he used to be. We're coming to the end of the Titan-dominated era because new weapons are being developed. So that we'll get into all of it. This is gonna be a long show. I can tell already. That being said, let's jump in scene 1. And I have a comment right away, which is to say that this entire episode is like 90% of the season 4 trailer, which means
we don't know jack.
We don't know anything.
Squat.
I know exactly.
I feel like it's like a brand new piece of cake and no one's taken a bite yet, and I'm just gonna jump in there.
Oh my gosh. Oh, or the
waiting is going to be so hard. We have to wait a whole week before we get to find out what happens.
It's a good thing we got some people to discuss the show with to keep us.
Yeah, to keep us sane for the next 7 days. Okay, hot plate of cookies is all I can imagine. You said cake, and I just immediately it was like, okay. So Falco, he's on the ground. This is the part we saw in the trailer, and he's not saying the exact same lines, but it is clearly from the trailer. He sees the birds, and the last episode of season 3 is very similar with Armin looking up at the birds, and they look like the same exact kind of birds.
I was going to say, isn't there also in season 1, doesn't Aaron reach up like that with his hand?
Oh yeah,
there's several times.
There's lots of times. Yeah,
Isayama seems to be using birds to communicate that there's kind of this continuity in between all of the seasons. Continuity. There's something that binds everything together throughout the show, and there's like these birds that are flying. And you think about it, I don't know. Maybe it's just symmetry, but maybe it's just symbolism. But the birds,
words are hard.
The talky words problems today.
The birds seem to be representing something that's high above.
Yeah.
The walls, the problems, the issues, the stress. They're not bound by one race or another. They can fly wherever they want. They're free, and there's this something in the birds that Isayama every time he's trying to communicate something that is like beautiful, transcendent, above and beyond. He shows you the birds in the sky.
Yeah, the end of season 1 is
the beginning of season 1.
The beginning of season 1 and the end of season 1. You're right. Yeah, it comes full circle. I forgot about that.
Full circle stuff going on with the birds.
Yeah, they kind of show the birds flying up there, and this one is super interesting because it's not just birds in the air, but it's because it's a new character. He's reaching out towards him. He's like, hey, and in the trailer he's like, go be free, and
go away from here.
He seems like he's incapacitated.
He's bleeding from his head.
Yeah, I guess. Like, it doesn't make it clear whether or not he's like actually been shot or anything like that. But
He's kind of jacked up.
They say he hit his head.
There was an explosion, and the explosion took out the majority of the LD in front. And it looks like just Falco and Colt are alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if Colt was part of it, but Colt at least rescued Falco and brought
grabs him
and pulled him back.
Through machine gun fire, the whole 9 units. 9 yards? What? None of us can talk tonight? Sorry, everyone. Like I said, it's going to be a long show, apparently. So, yeah, they basically like, okay, you've been knocked out. We're going to explain everything to you. But he says something super weird. He says, what? Just a second ago.
He said, where am I? Who are you guys?
Yeah, where am I? He doesn't recognize, like, he's had head trauma. I'll give him that. But he says, just a minute ago, I was flying around with swords, like fighting the Titans.
Whoosh. And there were Titans, and then she cuts him off.
Yeah, and it's like they stop listening to what he's saying. But my immediate thought, since there's no spoiler section, I'm just going for it. My immediate thought is that, okay, it's been 4 years. We don't know. With this first episode, we actually don't know what the frick. Now it's the opposite. They even spent the entire first 3 seasons not knowing what was going on outside the walls. Now we don't know what's going on inside the walls.
Yeah.
Has there been a breakthrough with Aaron's coordinate power or something like that? Because at the end of season 3, they're like, yeah, coordinates connected. All the paths go back to the coordinate. There's like this, we find out there's a strong connection, like memory connection or whatever. Mm-hmm. They can even kind of see the future as the owl did. Like, is somebody back in paradise?
Sending signals?
Yes. Are they mind
it's
spying?
Weird that he seemed to see things that he shouldn't have any memory of, right. and like
they don't even know.
Didn't you say you said was everything we just saw before right now all just him dreaming?
Something in the guy's head,
yeah,
like straight out of one of those crazy movies where it's like, oh, it was all a dream, and I'm like, no,
yeah. Well, no, I mean I guess it's legit. I guess even after watching the whole episode, I suppose it's still possible that this guy just had this like
crazy
dream being knocked out.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so either. But what I do think is that okay.
He gets his head hurt.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he experiences some sort of like,
being a scout
you get hit in the head,
or some
you
kind
see
of soldier.
Stars, you kind of like, you have your senses knocked out of you, but for a moment he connects, in my opinion, this is what happened. He connected with the consciousness, the Eldian connectivity that connects all Eldians together. And he saw through somebody else's eyes the memories, right? Let the memories guide you, right? It's what Grisha told Aaron in season 1.
Yeah.
So he for a second let all the memories guide him, and he doesn't know what's going on. Now,
where was he getting the memories? He is an Eldian.
He has, I think, has that connection.
But how would he be having Titan memories?
This could foreshadow.
He's going to inherit a power.
He's either going to get a Titan power, just like Aaron was having memories before he got the Titan power.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, this is Falco, who is not, he's the underdog to get the power, which means maybe he'll be the one to get the power.
Right.
Or this is showing us that no matter where you are, all Eldians are connected, and the coordinate can somehow unite them all as like an army and can connect to them, and one day they're all going to rise up.
Yeah. All right, so I already have a going theory for this one. My theory is...
Are they just as bad as our other theories?
No, this one's... Okay, it is. It is
right.
just as bad. Okay, so we got reamed so much for our season 4 trailer breakdown because we're anime onlys, and everybody was like, who read the manga was like, what? Anyway,
you guys
not everybody.
Are dumb.
Some people.
But also, part of the reason we made that is because we wanted to throw all the spaghetti on the wall.
100%.
We wanted to say, okay, here's a random thought we had. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Okay, here's something that we thought about at one point. We don't think it's real, but here's our theory.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get as many theories out there.
Yeah, when you get through the story in the first time, like, I'm sorry, but nobody reads this and can see all the curveballs coming.
No.
You can't. Like, I mean, Isayama definitely plants seeds, and when you look back, you're like, oh, look, he planted these seeds to
But
illustrate
when you
the
look
point.
back, you're like, how could anybody thought differently? Because it's so clear to you now.
Yeah, but at the time when you're watching the first time through, or in Mega Case, reading it the first time through. Okay, so going theory is like, all right, we know basically at this point, which we've known at the end of last season as well, that it looks like, the Armored Titans is done. So he's up for grabs. So they've got a whole new series of recruits. They're all young, which is exactly what we expect them to be, probably like young teens maybe.
Do you want to explain the math behind
14
that?
or 15-ish.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. So, yes. So...
we think he's done because...
I think he's done for one of two reasons, maybe both.
He looks so grown.
So... they broke down the walls 9 years ago from this episode. From what we're watching right now, it was 9 years before. We know that because there was 5... they say that, which makes sense. The first attack on the walls happened, and then
It was 5 years. Of
5
peace.
years later is when the
Second.
events of season 3 happened, essentially. And so now it's been 4 years since then. And the reason it's been 4 years, they say again in this episode, is because it's now known throughout the world that Marley's kind of military dominance is on the ropes. They don't say this explicitly that it's because they've lost one of their own Titan powers. I'm not sure that that's...
They actually say it's
They
because we
do.
lost 2 Titans.
Oh, it is because-
the
okay.
Yeah.
General, what's his head, or Commander,
They say
started with an M.
He said once the word spread quickly that we had lost. Remember, we charged in recklessly when we went to reclaim the founding Titan power, and that cost us the female Titan and the colossal Titan.
Right.
And that breach and might is what caused this war today.
Yeah. So that gives us the time frame. So now we know that there's been this war going on with this Middle Eastern country challenging Marley's dominance because they know they're down 2 of their biggest assets. And it looks like this is kind of a World War II setting. We understand that because the way the world works, there has been no weapon that really challenged a Titan shifter specifically, these combatants up until now. So they finally are starting to develop weapons to challenge them. Not only that, but they're down 2 Titans, not just any 2 Titans. The Colossal Titan, that's a huge
They
deal.
said he had the most possibility to be the most powerful, right?
Yeah.
The colossal Titan
and so
the female Titan.
So they say that we've been in this war for 4 years, and that is also the time in that time frame they've had to put off their operation to go into Paradise and get the founding Titan. So it's been they've been essentially been distracted by this other war. Thank you, French. During the American Revolution, it was like the same thing. Britain was like, "We're fighting too many wars. Fine, have your own country." Anyway, so that's basically what's going on with Marley. So that gives us a total of 9 years. And we figure, okay, well, in order for any of the recruits that we knew at the beginning, from season 1, so that would be Annie, Bertolt, Reiner, and the other dude, I can't remember his name, the guy who got eaten by Ymir. So for any of them, they would have had some time to train. You would think they would get their powers and then train them to use the powers. So a year, 2, I don't know. But now we're looking at 10, 11 years. So that means that for Reiner specifically, he's probably at the end of that time.
Best case scenario, he's at 11 years.
I would say
Or
best case scenario,
12.
I would say 10
I would say
max.
No, I'm saying minimum. He's at minimum 11 years.
Yeah, okay.
Most likely he's close to 13.
Yeah, he's close to 13.
So, which is why we think they're trying to find
A
replacements for the
Yeah.
Beast Titan.
Plus, he's
and for the
mentally
Armor
damaged.
Titan. He's
yes,
damaged
so,
good.
So that's my other theory, is that perhaps he actually has a couple of years left. Now, that's not long relative to the amount of time that they've got, but perhaps he does have that amount of time. But Reiner, we know, was messed up, dude. And I'm telling you, if he brought some of that weird mental, remember, what was the term? The sub-term is warrior versus soldier?
Soldier. Yeah.
If he brought some of that warrior soldier, schizophrenic mind thing back with him and they figured that out, they might be trying to hand off his Titan. Now, having watched this episode, I don't know if that's as possible because they use him in combat.
Yeah,
so they at
probably
least
wouldn't.
trust him enough to do that. Nonetheless, Zeke is also obviously up on the chopping block. He's had his power again, probably very close to 13 years. He was in the lead. He was in charge. And it kind of makes me wonder if they actually pass off all these powers at roughly the same time.
Yeah. It seems like there's batches of new recruits.
Yeah.
And Zeke, I would say Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt probably all got their power at the same. Steven says that would mean that Annie probably got her power at the same time, which means
Whoa,
she's
I wonder if
close
she's going to
to.
expire.
But I said, we don't know if
She
the
seems
crystal...
to be frozen in a
if
state
the
of
crystal
stasis,
effects, right?
though.
Like,
we
what
don't.
if the Titans get on a spaceship and travel at the speed of sound or speed of light and they don't age? And they can just maintain
anything's
Titan power.
possible. It's a new
All
season,
right.
dude.
Who knows?
Anything's
It's a
possible.
new season. We don't know what's going on.
Okay, so all right, we're gonna try and get through this episode. I know we're already getting into all the theories, but all right. So, I guess it's Gabi says to Falco, let me explain. She explains the situation they're in. I kind of said this during the recap that there's a fort that they're gonna try and take. Fort Slava. I don't know.
I think it's lava.
And the floor is
Slava.
lava. And this fort, it's a big circle. Again, we've seen this in the trailer. We now kind of understand this is a fort, and it's in between these kind of mountainous desert area and a port like the ocean. And she explains that the Marleyan Navy kind of sucks, which kind of again hints at the fact that Marley's military power is sort of not the incredibly dominant thing that it used to be. So
It's more like they rely upon the power of the Titans versus rely upon the technology like everyone else has had to.
yeah, so everyone else is now catching up because
This-
we didn't have Titans, we had to learn to freaking fight. traditional ordnance. And
necessity is the mother of all invention. If you
Right.
don't have Titan powers to lean upon, you have to develop a big gun to shoot the Titans in the face with, which they have.
which they freaking have.
Or actually in the nape, right?
Yeah, in the nape. Yeah, so that's where they
Not the
really want to hit
face.
him. So, all right. She explains, the Marley Navy kind of sucks, and so they really weren't, they lost half their ships in this war already, so they're not going to attack from the port. So that means they have to take this fort one way or the other. And she explains, that there are all these new warrior candidates that the recruits in that little area, these like 4-ish that we're looking at. We go to commercial, we come back, we watch it on Hulu, so we had to watch ads. Gabi starts to brag on herself. She says, listen, I have everybody beat. And she starts to explain why she thinks she's going to be the candidate. Now, arrogant characters are nothing new in the show, but this might be a new level.
She looks
is,
like she has all the ability of Mikasa and all the narcissism of like everyone.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
She kind of reminds me of characters like, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes or Dr. House or Tony Stark, like anybody
Yeah,
who's
very
like
full.
super, super smart and actually competent and also knows it and talks about how amazing
Yeah.
and cute they are. Like,
Yeah, she does. She makes a comment. She's like,
she's
I'm
like,
so
I'm
smart
ridiculously
and so cute.
good looking and I'm also brave and I can also do everything and shoot lightning out of my butt. Like, I don't know. She just thinks that she's basically God's gift to humanity.
She thinks she's the stuff.
She is the stuff
PG
and
version.
she knows that she's the stuff. And then she kind of proves it by actually doing something amazing.
Yeah, no, she does. She actually proves that she's very clever. But a line I want to highlight here is that she actually says it's not because I'm the fastest or strongest than the smartest, though I am. But it's not because of those things. She says the reason I know that I'm going to be the successor to the Armored Titan, that I deserve it, is because I am prepared to slaughter that island of devils that has made us suffer.
She's like Aaron.
Yeah,
She's like the
weird scene.
anti-Aaron.
She's like Auntie-Aaron. Yeah.
Ooh, maybe she is.
She's like Aaron's auntie.
She has a weird zeal.
She
Okay.
does remind me of Aaron too a little bit though, that fire that she has in her and that drive to like, I'm going to do this thing, this great thing that's way beyond my own capabilities, but I'm going to do it because I just am.
Yeah.
We know they've been sold this propaganda and fed.
Right.
And so what she says, period, she says, because of all those people on the island of paradise who have caused us all the suffering. And anybody with like a brain who knows what's going on is like, what suffering?
You have been lied to? Okay, but then
She
she
has been
also
lied
says
to.
she's going to do this to end their captivity.
yes.
They're in
So they
what
actually
is the
share
word
the
she
same
actually
goal.
internment, yeah.
So Aaron and her, have the
She's
same goal.
also fighting for freedom.
Right.
Okay, so-
she just goes about it the wrong way because she's been fed the wrong information.
Yes. So I made this observation, which I think this is pretty obvious to anyone watching the series. At the end of season 3, we get those last several episodes is where we get the deep dive from Grisha and Aaron's Titan memories, combination of the two, as to what was going on in Marely. And we discover that this intense, racism is really what it looks like. But this what's the other word? Prejudice, I guess you could say. And bigotry. The Eldians are really treated like trash, And not only are they treated like trash,
Like
but they're
animals.
fed a propaganda. And what we see is the restorationists, right? So that'd be Grisha and the crew. They discover from Dinah, that this kind of alternative history that no, the Eldians aren't a race that should be ashamed of their, having oppressed the Marleyans and having oppressed people in the past, but they're actually a race that should be proud because they invented like these bridges over the mountains and they, kind of created all these good things for civilization. So we were talking about this, how it's unclear which of those two stories is the real story because they both sound like propaganda.
Or even if this is just the Marleyan propaganda and this is just the Eldian propaganda, and there's the truth is somewhere in between,
truth?
which I hope.
What is truth?
I would imagine, yeah, it is. It is somewhere in between there. So nonetheless, Gabi, who's a Marleyan recruit, has no doubt been fed the Marleyan version of history with the Eldians. And like I said, they really despise them. Like as a race, as a people, they're like, whether they're kids or adults, it doesn't matter. Like you're just beasts, you're just titans. And they have this idea in their head, like you made the whole world suffer. Your forefathers did. Therefore you deserve,
you deserve to have shame,
like,
infinite shame.
It doesn't make any sense. Like none of these Eldians were the people who, none of these people in these living in these internment zones are the ones, they're not oppressing anybody. In fact, they're the oppressed. Like they're literally, anyway, the comment I was going to make is they're literally within walls. These internment zones are surrounded by walls. And that kind of comes up in this episode as well. But
before we get to the Gabi part,
go ahead.
We see Colt, who seems to be the leader of the warrior group. And after he saves Falco,
Oh yeah, that's right.
the Marleyan commanders say, Colt, tell us what's going on. So Colt goes to go brief them. We see him come out, and we can see there's an argument. And the Marleyan commanders are looking at the defenses of this fort, and it's Fort Slava?
Slava.
And it is some serious defenses. And you got to think, look, if you're going to be defending against Titans, I don't care how big your walls are. You want huge guns, right? The Eldians inside the walls, they don't know what the hell they're doing yet. Okay, these guys know what they're doing. They got an armored, tank-like train with huge howitzer type, anti-Titan cannons, they call them. They've got all sorts of guys on the wall with heavy machine guns. They've got guys who can just mortar things. They've got all sorts of stuff. And then on the opposite side, the thing that they're really guarding is the port, all of the boats. And no one can get to the port unless you take this fort first. Once you do, you'll be able to get to the port. So they have to get to the port. And what Gabi says to Falco is, this is the climax of a war we've been fighting for 4 years, this battle is. We take that fort. More importantly, if we take the port and kill all the ships, we'll win this war. So this is kind of a very important moment we're keying in on.
Climax.
And Colt says, look, here's what's going on. The defenses are way too much. All of the Eldians we just sent in got utterly wiped out, but Falco, basically. This is crazy. There's only one way we need to go. We need to call in, and he says 2 names. I believe it was Pierce and Gel. I wrote it down. We need to call in the Jaw and the Cart, essentially. I'll find their names in a second. It's Galliard and Pierce. Which we know is the Jaw Titan and the Cart Titan, which we've been calling him the Luggage Titan or the Baggage Titan or the Check One Please Titan.
Emotional baggage.
He's the Backpack Titan.
Backpack Titan, yeah. He is the Autobot Titan.
He's proving himself to be very useful, actually.
He's the Quadrupedal Titan. So
he has a weird helmet thing on his really weird face, too.
Colt wants to call on the big guns to take out that front line so they can get in. But the Marleyan guy says, how dare you, LDN, take that tone with me?
Yeah.
You're just a filthy LDN, and begins immediately to condescend and talk down, which is exactly what we've been seeing and saying.
Just kind of,
racism,
prejudice.
bigotry, prejudice going on. And it's like they don't even want to listen to sound logic. It's very obvious to them 800 LDN lives are worth nothing.
Nothing at
They'll
all.
easily spend them if they can get a victory. They don't even care. So we see these guys are the fodder. These guys are the front lines. And here's Colt, who's trying to be a good LDN, but also trying to be a good tactician, knows, hey, let's not just send waves and waves of our guys into mortars, heavy artillery, heavy machinery for no reason. Let's mix things up. The Marleyan commanders say, oh, okay, so you want to send in the Titans? Look what they've got. They've got those anti-Titan guns.
A train specifically that's going around.
If they shoot the Titan apes, right, if they hit them, they can kill Titan instantly. And guess what would happen? We would lose our Titan power. And guess what happened the last time we sent in our Titans to reclaim the founding Titan in the island of Paradis? We lost 2 of our Titan powers. And that is what caused this war right here. Somebody saw that we were weakening our strength, and they're trying to rise up and fight us.
We used our Titan power in an improper way, and that made us weak. And that weakness, now there's blood in the water, and everybody wants a piece of us.
Yep.
It's crazy that they sent 4 of their 7 Titans in
to get
1 power. Like, to me, that seems a little aggressive.
What seems even strange to me is thinking about this versus thinking about the island of Paradis. Like, okay, what would you rather have? You have to go in with your Titan power to go up against the fortress like Slava, like many fortresses like Slava. You've got anti-Titan guns, you got anti-Titan armor, you got anti-Titan howitzers, you got anti-Titan all sorts of things. Or you got a bunch of hicks on an island
who know nothing,
who have barely developed cannons.
Yes, they don't have cars
and don't even know anything about the truth behind the Titans.
Tractors.
They don't have ships.
That sounds like a cakewalk to me. I'd be like,
should be.
I will take that mission in a minute, right? Like,
now it's remote. You got to go out into the sticks.
It's going to take time.
Yeah.
They don't have fast food.
There's pure Titans out there.
There's pure Titans.
Still, like, why would you send 4 kids?
That sounds...
4 kids with 4 of your most powerful abilities without an adult
So that
to the stick.
No,
that
they
goes
did.
to show me.
No,
No,
what's his
there were
face?
no adults with
No,
them.
that
They
one
were
guy
all-
was definitely older.
He was still a kid. He
Yes.
wasn't like in his 20s.
It's Bertolt's brother, right?
Yeah, so he was maybe a couple, 3 years
But
older.
regardless, that goes to show us that they
They were
believe.
so prideful.
No,
Like-
they believe the founding Titan power is that powerful.
I suppose that's true. I'm
They
just
believe-
saying.
That they sent in 4.
Mhm.
4 of the
specifically.
7
To take down
that
the
they
founding
had.
Titan.
Now, the owl makes it pretty clear at the end of season 3 too that in order to get there, in order to get to the walls in the first place, you do pretty much have to possess a Titan power.
Yeah.
He does say that,
Which is strange
fairly
that they were walking around not in their Titan powers at all points.
Yeah.
And why he gets eaten, but regardless.
Also, why didn't they just send Zeke when he can control pure Titans? He could have just walked in there.
I mean, he did
don't know.
show up eventually, but
He did, but I'm just saying, like that. Their strategy boggles my mind. It doesn't
Anyway.
make a lot of sense.
back to the war at hand. So we learned the kind of the situation. These anti-Titan. That's going to be a hard one to master. This is not real life, Eric. This is fiction. So
They do have anti-Titan tanks, though.
So this is where Gabi, yeah, they do. This is where Gabi, so back to her, she's saying, listen, I'm the most prepared of all of us because I'm prepared to slaughter this island of devils. Knowing that she is one, right? And again, we discussed this. She actually wants these internment zones to go away as well. She wants Eldians to be free. So they have this common goal, which I do believe will set us up in the future for an alliance between humanity within the walls, Eldians within the walls, and hopefully Eldians outside the walls that they can actually unite together and find some common ground.
We hope
It's going to
so.
be hard to do because the propaganda seems like it runs deep.
Yeah.
But-
Look at Zeke.
Yeah, look,
Even
Zeke.
his parents couldn't convince him that the propaganda wasn't true.
He turned his own
Yeah.
parents into that's deep. So
They also the Marleyan guy says, "What makes Marley such a great country?" What does he say? Our mother country is such a great country. And
Yeah, we have the
Colt
Titan
says,
powers.
the power of the 9 Titans. He's like,
They're
yes.
absolute,
So
and
I'll
it has to stay
gladly-
that way.
I would gladly spend 800 LD puny lives to protect those Titan powers.
yeah, and he actually, I forgot about this line what you were talking about a second ago, where they have that conversation where he's like, telling him like, oh, how dare you take that tone with me? And then he says, yeah, send in the 800, and he's like, he hesitates there, and he's like, what? Are you not sworn loyal warriors to us?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever kind of recruitment process they have, we had always guessed that it was really intense, but now we know, like, it's intense. Like, you swear loyalty to the Marleyan crown of some sort.
And I'd say it's more than that. It's more like they believe fundamentally, like religiously believe
Mm-hmm.
that their people are wicked people, and the only way they can purge this wickedness from the earth, like they've probably taught us children, we know, hey, you're bad. Who you are is bad, which is, man, it's a terrible thing to tell a
it's
kid.
horrible.
But in the only way, you want to be good, don't you? Yes, I want to be good. The only way you can be good is if you serve without question the Marleyan government and fight with us to take back all these lands, give your life. And we can see that because, we know in World War II, the Japanese, they had people who were so committed to their own country that they would gladly kill themselves.
It's a real thing.
Kamikaze, right?
Yeah,
Holy wind.
This whole scenario
Divine wind.
is very World War II.
But here's the difference. The difference is the Japanese, I don't think it was right. I think they were kind of brainwashed to a degree to believe in the holiness of their empire. But they at least gave their own lives believing what they believed.
Yeah,
Here's Marleyans saying, you give your own life
for us.
For what
Yeah.
we believe.
And they've got suicide bombers that are being forced to go suicide bomb. And he says, this is your chance to purge the devil out of your country.
Yeah, there's so many overtones here, but the World War II thing, because you noticed at the end of season 3, right? Internment zones, very much like the ghettos in Nazi Germany.
Yep.
You've got this race that is segregated and
With
disrespected.
armbands.
Yeah, they wear the armbands. They have to have permission to leave these zones. Like, it's all very reminiscent of World War II. And then this whole kind of fight for world dominance. Like, there's just a lot. The technology they're using, the style of Navy ships and machine guns, and even the helmets and things that they're wearing, are all very reminiscent. So I'm sure that's intentional. I'm sure it's on purpose, and I'm kind of curious to see where else. Like, because I don't want to say this is Isayama's like commentary on World War II. I doubt it that that's necessarily the case, but he does seem to have a lot of like. He's a lot to say about a worldview, right? One of our favorite episodes, I think, I don't remember if it's Smallblade. Is that the name of the one? No, The World She Saw.
The world she saw.
Is the one where we discover Mikasa's, her kind of backstory and her experience with Eren and so on and so forth. But the moment where Eren's like saying like Tatake, like fight, like if you don't fight, you won't have any chance to win. If you just lay down and take it, like you're gonna die. That's a principle that kind of goes well beyond, what's happening in the cartoon, the anime. It's like kind of almost a comment on ethics and philosophy and how to approach life. So I'm really curious to see where he takes this specific thing, because the kind of like prejudices and treating these people like in this like kind of like lower way, like it's going to have ramifications. I just feel like there's an uprising in the works, because they have the restorationists already.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like, let me make another prediction. I think we're actually going to mostly watch Marely this time. I think we're going to I think this first half of the season is going to focus very heavily on these characters, on what's happening in Marely, on, with the stuff that they're facing. I don't think we're going to catch up with Aaron and the gang for a minute.
Yeah. Well, we did see something at the end of this episode.
End.
So let's get to it. So, so we see Gabi. She's volunteering. Why? Because she wants to prove that she's a good Eldian. She wants to prove, look, there is good inside Eldians. We're not just all devilish scum on an island, right? She wants to prove, and which is so sad. So she's getting ready. We see these suicide bombers, and we also see something I wanted to comment on. We see a guy who seems to be reciting a prayer. Yeah,
or like a scripture of some kind or something. It's reminiscent of the wall cult.
It's reminiscent of the wall cult or some kind of religion that's going on. And we want to like, who do they pray to? Like, what do they believe? Are they trying to like pray to Marely, or do Eldians have their own religion?
Ymir, maybe?
And Marleyans have their own religion? And are they allowed to pray to Ymir? Like, I don't know. But all we know is there's a wall cult inside the walls. There was a wall cult, in the outside the walls that they got killed for.
Yeah.
So here's a guy that he says, all creatures drink of joy at nature's breast. I don't know what that means, but I think we're about to find out.
I wonder if that's because we see it in the credits and stuff too. Again, and to season 3, you find out a lot about the this idea that all the Eldians are connected, and there's this idea of like the pathways, and they all converge at the coordinate, but they're all connected. So I'm sure there's something there. Okay, so Gabi comes up with a plan, and she tries to sell this plan to this general guy. I can't remember his name now, but
starts with an M.
The fat
Magda,
dude.
I think.
He's very reminiscent. He reminds me a lot of the dude that killed Krisha's sister and wife and all that stuff like that. He's
maybe
very,
it is
nasty.
him. Who knows?
No, he died.
Okay.
He got fed to a Titan at the end.
Yeah.
The owl kicked him over and let one of the Titans he just created eat him. So anyway,
they're about to send in all these 800 Eldians, and they say keep the warriors back.
Yes,
right?
because you're too valuable.
They're way more valuable than these 800 Eldians because they have the opportunity to receive one of the Titan powers.
Yes. So
Colt says, Colt, you're the successor of the Beast Titan.
So we know him for sure.
You need to learn what it means to lead, right? He kind of like gives Colt like this rundown. Like, you got to stop speaking up. You got to just do whatever you have to do. And you guys are going to try to blow up the armored train. The rest of you, see if you can get through somehow.
Yeah, very half-cocked, like not good plan.
So Gabi then...
This is where she offers. Okay, she says, no, listen, hey, I think I want to prove myself, and I have a plan. And she's got 7 grenades, and they're, again, speaking of World War II, these are the potato mashers the Germans had, like 100%. That's what they are. And she's got these grenades, they're all tied together, and she's like, let me go in there, like I can do this on my own. He's like, no way, you're too valuable. Like, we've spent a lot of money. He actually says, we've spent so much money training you. Hell no. Like, that's not going to happen. So she does her, manipulative kind of thing where she's like, okay, well, I can see it's a compliment to think that I'm worth more than 800 Eldian lives and blah, blah.
And I'm so cute.
Yeah, exactly. She comments on the cuteness. She says all this stuff. And finally he agrees. She basically finds a way to go back and forth with the guy.
She kind of points out that by letting her try, he only risks losing her. But by not letting her try, he's going to for sure lose 800 soldiers.
Yeah, you for sure lose 800 soldiers, or you lose one promising candidate and 7 grenades. So it's your choice. And
then she goes into if you think I'm worth 800 lives, and I can totally understand, I am an exceptional candidate, and I'm so cute. Like,
she's ridiculous.
Which maybe her play was to make him hate her. So he's like, you go die right now.
Pretty much works too, because he gets kind of irritated. He's like, fine. You have your way.
So she goes in to pull this deal off, and she starts to take off her uniform, and they're like, what are you doing? She's like, in order for this to work, like,
doesn't Colt like blush or something?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they do.
Like,
she's the only girl like in this
he kind of likes her
group. Yeah, so she goes to she takes off her uniform. She's like, she has to ask permission to take her armband off. Horrible. Talk about oppressed. Anyway,
he gives it to her.
He gives it to her, and she's like, okay.
She says, "I swear I will prove I'm the one worthy of armor." And just before this, the Marleyan guy said, "Your actions will purge the devil away in your sacrifice."
Can I just point out how ridiculous it is that they're oppressing the Eldians so much and saying they're devils and they're like dogs and all this stuff, because like they couldn't do anything without them.
They're literally their entire warfare strategy
using them as weapons.
Which
they
is,
can't. I mean, they turned however many. The Beast Titan turned however many of them into actual weapons,
but
killing them essentially. Like
the fact that they are weapons is why they're oppressed, because they have to keep these weapons contained.
Horrifying
it's like
to me.
It's like having a velociraptor as like your pet. That's your weapon. You
you're telling it it's a piece of crap, and you
like,
owe everything to it.
It's like
you
all
have to keep
slavery.
it in a cage, and you have to keep it under your thumb. Like otherwise, it won't work.
It's so wrong.
It's like all slavery. It's disgusting. It's despicable. It's wrong. You have to dehumanize the people that you're enslaving, and you have to make them believe that they're worthless and powerful, because if they ever got an idea of how powerful they were, they could all rise up and be like, "We're not listening to you. We're done," and overthrow you. And that's what
so
needs to happen,
interesting how
and that's what should
duplicitous it
happen.
is, because they're like saying you're powerless and you suck, but also you're the only thing that we have to defend us against the enemy.
World.
Right. Yeah.
So she goes.
Come on.
She pulls this op off. She goes out in just like basically like a nightgown. Like, I don't know why you'd be wearing
just
that
in her underwear.
Basically, but it's not like a bra and panties kind of underwear. It's like, anyway, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is
the period,
she looks very vulnerable, and she looks like she's ready to go take a nap. Is what I'm trying to say. So she runs out there.
She also has a very pitiful look on her face. She's barefoot. She doesn't have anything on her feet. And she's acting like she's injured, and then she collapses right before they're about to shoot her.
The two dudes with machine guns are like, she's probably an LD, and you might be able to shoot her before she transforms. Like, let's get this thing over with, which would have been a good idea.
And granted, it was a smart ploy, because if it was a big hairy dude, they'd be like, kill that thing immediately, because it looks like a harmless girl. The humanity inside them is like, oh,
why is there a naked girl with no shoes limping across the battlefield?
We should probably shoot her. They're trying to build up the courage to like actually shoot this defenseless girl.
You shoot her. No, you shoot her. That's basically what's going on.
I'd like to also point out that it's against the Geneva Convention to feign a surrender and then fight back in treachery.
Yeah,
just so you guys know.
That's a good point, because that plays into what's about to happen immediately after this.
She feigns a surrender.
So she feigns a surrender. She falls down. They're like, I don't know what to do. But really what she's waiting for is this train to go by. The train that has the anti-tank, anti-Titan weapons. She has been dragging the grenades on the ground, so it's not very visible. She pulls them from the ground, chucks it out of the train.
Yeah, that's her limp, is that she's dragging 7 grenades on her ankle.
And she pulls it off. Like, she blows the train.
She's brilliant, okay?
They start shooting at her. Or the one dude kind of, like, the train explodes, basically takes out half their little, defensive position. The one guy does recover enough to start firing machine guns rounds at her, though. So she's on the run, and while she's on the run, didn't you just mention this? Falco, right? Falco's like, what's her name? Gabi, and like sees her, and so he goes to run out after her.
He goes to save her.
For what?
For no reason, really, because he and her fall into the same hole together. I'm not really sure that he saves her at all.
It was a brave gesture.
But because here's the thing, he likes her. He likes her, I can tell. He totally likes her.
He's a brave person. It's not Colt. It's Falco.
Falco, yeah, not Colt, sorry.
But regardless, it was a brave gesture. He wants to help. Luckily, they call in Galliard right as that happens. So what we see is the new Jaw Titan.
We think it's Zumir's power.
Runs in. He's got some kind of mask on. He runs in. Maybe the mask deflects bullets or whatever. Yeah. Trying to social distance. He protects them from the gunfire, and he goes in and starts to absolutely wreck.
Dude, he really does. He's a big rig wrecker. There's a lot of good action in this episode.
As this is happening, we see that because those armored anti-Titan guns are down, we can call in the airstrike. So we see an airship beginning to fly over. The airship, we look up and we realize inside the airship
so messed up
are a very adult-looking Reiner and a very adult-looking Zeke and a bunch of what looks like drugged or sedated or messed with.
Some of them have, it's interesting because if you think about what pure Titans' facial expressions look like,
they
all had weird facial expressions. Some of them were like smiling all weird. Some of them looked terrified. Some of them looked paranoid.
Yes, none of them looked normal.
Some of them looked aggressive and angry.
It was almost like they looked like they were special needs people.
Yeah.
And if they used that,
something
that would be
like
even
that.
more despicable. I'd be so mad.
They were also
in
straitjackets, and they were like hooked up to the ceiling and being dragged
Yes.
and then drop like bombs.
Drop
And then
bombs.
we see the commander saying we'll be in position in a minute. Zeke, the Beast Titan, will be our spear, and Reiner, the Armor Titan, will be our shield. In between this, there's a commercial break, and we see the placard with information,
the public disclosure thing.
which tells us that Marely is a military dictatorship utilizing 7 of the 9 Titans as warriors.
At the end of this episode, put
We're
a foot
gonna
on
get
that.
into that?
We're going to talk about
Okay,
that.
all right. So it's kind of like Normandy, regardless of the fact that the armored anti-tank, anti-Titan guns are down.
So tough. This is going to be a long season.
They just send in the 800 Eldians, regardless of the fact that the Beast Titans there's a Jaw Titans in there, messing around.
They still send them into their deaths.
And luckily, we also see the Cart Titan is there as well. We see
Backpack Titan.
I'm still
Backpack
gonna call him
Titan.
Backpack
Loaded with
Titan,
machine
sorry.
guns, turrets.
Yes, he's actually got some kind of giant weapon on him, and he's shooting up. He's tearing out things. The Titans are doing their job. We now see this is the power of the Marleyan Empire, right?
Yeah. So an interesting scene that we get in this charge, I just have this noted here, is that one of these Eldian soldiers has to climb up a literal pile of bodies, and he looks over at the fort, and he sees the Jaw Titan and so on doing its business, and it's just they do a good job with this in the show of like kind of letting you. It's not a horror show. That's not the theme, but they let the graphicness of what's happening sort of affect you at the right moments. Like it's on purpose, is what I mean. Is there's no graphic, bloody, gore, grossness just for the sake of being gory. It's always there for a reason, and I feel like this one is serving the purpose of this is what these people face.
War is hell.
Yeah, war is hell, and he actually, the Beast Titan, in a second, he actually does drop that line. So. So in the melee, as this fight is going on, we get a quick cut where we get to see Falco, and he has actually taken a prisoner of war. I guess he's taken him as a medical case essentially, and he takes this guy. He's one of the Middle Eastern dudes. He brings him into the trench, and he's like, "Hey, he's in no position to fight. Like I'm gonna at least help him." And this is where I feel like this sets up everything. So we see Gabi, and she's like, "You're weird," like. Basically, she says, if you follow the rules of war here, you think that's what's going to give you the spot as the Armored Titan? And he basically is like, I don't care. Like that's not what this is about. Like this man, like he actually has a sense of like justice in his heart for somebody that he shouldn't have that sense for. And again, I think this is paving the way in the future here for
An Eldian uprising.
Yeah, an Eldian uprising, and specifically an alliance. Because here's the thing: is he's also the one. Isn't Falco the one that woke up at the beginning of the episode
Yeah.
saying
Thought
weird
he
stuff?
was a scout.
Yeah, I think there's something there. He definitely, to me, reminds me a lot of Eren.
Yeah.
He cares
Yeah.
for other people.
Mhm.
He's wanting to do the right thing regardless of who's looking around, right? He wants to go out of his way to like help.
He reminds me of Armin too, because he's a little bit more like he's thinking. She's not thinking. She's just like, I mean, she's thinking, but she's mostly going in and
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
And he's actually thinking about what comes next.
But Eren like cares about people.
Yeah, they both do.
and
They
risks,
all-
and
yeah.
Falco seems like he has that to him.
Yeah, he
And
has the
he's
same
not
longing.
trying to look for. He's not like, I'll do anything I can to become the Armored Titan. He's like, I just want to help.
Yeah, and I would say that like I'm not sure if this is the point, but between these two characters, Gabi and Falco, they look like they're polar opposites, but I think they actually do have the same goal. And I think that because again, within the last 3 seasons, within the walls, we see a lot of characters saying, we have the same goal here, but they have very different ways of going about it.
Yeah.
One says anything justified, Hanji doing the torture and stuff like that, and them kind of going, I don't know if we should be doing that. Like, we can't always stoop to their level. Like, we have to, there's a conflict, an ethical conflict of like, all right, do the means justify the ends justify the means type of thing. So I think that's kind of what's going on here. I'm also going to, like I said, pointing him out. I think he's going to be a main character. I think he's going to play.
Definitely.
Yeah,
well,
going to
he's
play a
on
role.
the poster, so
Right.
But he's ministering to this guy. He's helping his wounds.
Yeah.
And he
he
looks
stops
at
the bleeding.
he looks at Udo,
his friend,
and he says, "Hey, translate. Hey, I'm helping your wounds. You'll be okay."
Yeah, stop the bleeding. You're going to be okay.
And the guy's talking now. Do these guys look Turkish to you?
Yeah.
I think something like that.
Yeah, it looks Turkish.
They say Middle Eastern. So.
We don't know where they're from, but anyway,
They have dark hair.
it
Yeah, they
resembles
definitely look.
something close to in our world. But
Yeah.
anyway, they've got the fez on their head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he's saying something obviously in a different language. So Udo has to translate. And they're like, hey, translate, tell him. And Udo turns and says, what he's saying is, don't touch me, you devil, I'll be tainted. And the Marleyan general guy begins to laugh. And as he's complaining about his own, petty wounds, as he sent 800 men to go be slaughtered, he laughs, and you realize the situation. Even the enemies of the Marleyans hate the Eldians.
Hate the Eldians.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the end of season 3, it's Aaron's concern is that they've made it past the walls. He spent this whole time trying to get past the walls. We get past the walls and the pure Titans. Like there's a sense of peace on Marely. We made it to the sea, and that was the dream. But at the end, Aaron's like, okay, but beyond the sea, I thought was where real freedom was. Here we are at the sea, and what I now know because of these Titan memories is that beyond the sea are enemies, and that the enemies are the entire world.
Yeah.
Which this episode seems to confirm that it's
sucks.
Literally everybody.
The whole world
everybody hates
you.
this race.
What if the walls weren't there to trap you? What if they were there to keep you safe?
Which seems like to be the case.
Would explain why the
founding Titan,
the king's will would always overpower because they realize, oh, this is actually keeping the world from destroying us. We should probably stay in here.
Remember what Uri said? How foolish was I? I tried to make a paradise inside these walls, right? He tried to get away maybe from the world founding Titan and create a place where there's going to be some sort of like non-persecution for the Eldians. They could be safe, but even the Eldians persecute themselves based off of the class warfare, the last names. There's inequality, there's hatred.
Yeah.
So,
well, the owl specifically says to Grisha, because Grisha says, well, why don't we go tell the king inside the walls to come and fight with us to join our revolution, essentially. And he tells him he won't. He's a pacifist. He thinks, he says what you're saying. Like, he thinks he's going to keep everybody, like, safe and held up in there. And he's like, okay, well, maybe that's, like, he goes, but any king who won't fight for his people is no true king at all.
Oh, true
I was
story.
like,
True
okay,
story.
Man.
I'm with you.
True story.
Also, where'd you get your Titan power?
Yeah. So we see the next scene. We see the airdrop scene, right?
Yep.
We see all these people who look like Titans getting loaded up. We know they're Eldians. They're drugged or they're handicapped or something, and they begin to be just dropped in their like
parachuted
snuggie bags down, and you know it's gonna happen, but we don't know how it's gonna happen. And I don't know if you guys were thinking this. I'm like, is there a device? Is there something in the bag?
I thought there was something in the bag.
I did too. I thought they were either gonna like blow up or like somehow something was going to inject into them from inside the bag.
I was going to see a trigger. I thought they were going to put a finger on the trigger and they were all going to.
But I thought there's no way they got that kind of technology to be able to like make that small inject. That's way. It's like 50s and 60s before that's back in where they're at. So as they're being dropped out, all of our questions about this finally get answered.
How did
all
he turn a whole
theories.
village in one night?
The Beast Titan roars.
He's not even in Titan form.
No,
he
he's
just
in
does
human form.
He goes,
he like points at them with his face.
Boom, roars, and they all turn into pure Titans. Now this
opens up so many possibilities.
This answers one question and opens up 1,000, and we all lost our minds when we saw this. We've been asking
I'm
this.
Still losing my mind about that.
If you've been watching this show, we've been losing our mind about this for asking that question for years, man. And finally, we're getting our answer, but the answer has so many more questions. Now, this tells us in season 3, the Beast Titan was lined up, right? He was ready, and they surround the people at Shigashina.
And there's the explosions.
And there's the explosion, and all the Titans appear, and we're like, okay, were they all those Titans buried? And he just called them up.
Yeah.
Most likely, what we think so far is that the cart Titan,
backpack Titan,
a
brought in
bunch of sedated
a bunch
Eldians.
of people
now,
or kidnapped people.
Yeah, Armin actually
I
says.
said that.
Yeah, you brought this up.
I said he probably kidnapped people from around and then brought them through the woods.
Which, okay.
If they were drugged or unconscious, they wouldn't have known them.
And they
like,
buried them in the ground.
Yeah.
Or just positioned
Because
them.
I think they may have buried them.
I'm
still,
pretty sure that the Beast Titan shouts, and that was the signal.
Yeah, it was.
Then when he shouts, they all bust out of the ground.
So he can turn Eldians into Titans as far as we know.
Now,
because he did that in the village.
Right.
He did that in Shigashina, and now he does it. We see him do it live.
Now, the question, there's, again, many questions.
Yes.
So
One
many
of them
questions.
that I have to ask is, okay, the obvious question is, okay, well, if you can do that, why
do
didn't
you
you
need
just
to
march?
inject people?
Well, why do you inject people? But I'm saying more specifically, why don't you just march into the walls and just turn everybody into pure Titans that are under your command and just go take the founding Titan? But like it seems like the fight would be a lot easier with just him. Like, it seems like an incredible power. So my thought is that there must be some kind of limitation or some kind of condition on this. I don't know what that may be. remember we kind of the theory that for Connie's village, maybe he had to have them all drink something, or like there had to be some kind of condition.
Yeah, they did
because
something to
Is
the
there a
water
condition?
source.
Are they sedated? Can he
Mhm.
only do it to a short amount of people, to a short amount of time?
Is it-
Does
Does he have to
have
be directly in their vicinity, pointing directly at them?
Yeah, does he have to like maybe touch them first and then he can do like the memory thing?
Like, is he dragonborn? Like, does he have all 3 levels of the shout?
What kind of shout can
Why
he do?
do we
Yeah.
have to
What's
always
his-
go back to
What's his
Skyrim?
one-handed combat level? Like, so many questions.
Yeah, because the question is when Levi comes at him,
Exactly,
why
Steven.
didn't he just yell? Why didn't he just turn all the scouts? Why did he need an entire
Yeah,
army?
Steven
He could've
just
been
said
like, blah, whatever. You guys are my.
You just turn the scouts into
Yeah.
dice.
So that's why I think it's the part of the reason is what you just said. I think
There's
it's conditional.
a missing piece of this puzzle that we don't know yet.
Sure, I think it's conditional, mostly because the condition of the people he turned into Titans.
They were not with it.
They were not capable of defending themselves. They were all wrapped up. They looked drugged. There's something to that.
Especially the ones that were like, like nobody would be happy to be dropped out of a plane to their death.
So anyway, we get this cool action scene at the end here. Reiner goes down and makes a really interesting comment. He goes, wall. He's like, I'm sick of all these walls. I'm sick of hearing about these walls. And so he comes down and starts crushing the walls right away. He transforms, He goes into combat as the Armored Titan. He takes a few really good hits. He realizes they have a lot of anti-Titan weapons. Like, can he pierce even his armor?
He like loses one of a whole arm, like
He
up
loses
to
an
his
arm.
shoulder.
He realizes there's a second anti-Titan
Yes.
Like
train on the
Yeah.
inside of this fortress. It starts taking shots at him and takes his arm out. Now he's
Which explains why I was like, why do they have a wall inside of a wall? What kind of a
yeah.
why?
But I don't
now
know
we
about you
know
guys.
because there's a train on top of it that shoots Titans in the face.
Yeah. At first, when the guy was like, oh, we can't afford to send in the Jaw and the Cart Titan. We're only going to send in the Eldians and die. I was like, oh, he's just being a jerk. He doesn't really care about them. But now I'm like, oh, no, he's probably right. Those armored things would have jacked up. Maybe the Claw would have been, the Jaw Titan would have been fast enough. But those anti-Titan guns would have jacked up
Oh yeah.
the
they,
Titans.
They do some
If they're
pretty serious
messing up
work.
the Armored Titan,
It's piercing his armor
they
and
would
knocking,
really mess up.
ripping
Yeah.
his entire
And so
limb off.
the threat is it's interesting because the threat is not you can lose a warrior that way. That is what they're concerned, that you lose a warrior and you may not have control of that power after that. That's the main reason you don't want to lose the warrior. The person inside is important, not because they're important as an individual and we love them. They're important as an asset because you in order to maintain the power, you need them, right? That's where the power resides.
Right.
The other thing is that your weapon just isn't as effective as it was. Like, you used to be able to just charge in and just dominate everybody with this thing. And what are they shooting, bows and arrows or cannons at you? Well, now they're shooting armor-piercing rounds.
Yes.
And so your weapon just can't last as long and it can't be as effective. Now, Reiner's clever. He loses an arm. He loses another piece of his arm. He runs in, grabs his train, and starts swinging the train around the entire freaking fort, blowing up all the...
Like destroying the buildings. And
Has any other Titan seen as much freaking blunt force trauma?
Dude, it's just
as
like when-
Reiner. He has just gotten beat so much.
Yeah, I mean, they say he's our shield.
he's the shield. When he starts doing that with the train, it reminded me of when he started picking up Titans and just throwing them in Aaron's general direction, just trying
Reminded
to
me
do.
of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It's just like, rah!
Slamming the ground. So this is where so Zeke kind of looks down and is like, okay, it looks like the coast is clear. He goes to jump in, and he actually says kind of to himself, I don't think he says this out loud, but he says, our defeat is what brought on this war, Reiner. Like, he's kind of
Like
pissed
he
at him.
blames Reiner. I'm like, you sent kids, you freaking jerk.
His
Also, why didn't
brother
you
got
go?
eaten, you scumbag. Like, come on. It's not like
Why
he
didn't-
intended for that to happen.
Why didn't you go?
Why didn't you go, you...
Maybe because
piece
he
of
was
work?
fighting
Jeez.
other wars we don't know.
There is no excuse. He should have. Well, anyway.
Well,
I mean,
when he did show up, freaking Levi toasted
Yeah,
his-
it
dude,
obviously wasn't as
That's
easy as you
true.
thought it was
That's
going to
true.
be, bro.
Levi freaking
Now,
wrecked him.
To be
I
fair,
wish Levi had just. Anyway.
to be fair, there was several times they could have snatched Aaron and ran, and
Yeah.
they didn't because they weren't sure what was going on. They were trying to get more intel, which is the smart play. But had they known what they know now, as soon as Aaron turned into Titan for the first time and got eaten, they should have, all three of them, just gone, boom, ran in, grabbed him, taken off, and they got one free Titan power.
Well, what would they have known? They actually got them both. Like, if
Yeah,
they'd have
it's
just picked
true.
them up the
We
first
would've
time, they
won
would
the
have
no resistance,
Yeah, seriously.
right?
He would have
Almost
no idea
resi-
what's going on.
Humanity and the walls would have been screwed, but
That kind
they
of
didn't know
harkens back, though, to Commander Irwin's lesson. If you're not willing to risk everything, you can't win.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
that's
true.
really true. Yeah, this is one of the
He
things
was
that really...
playing it too safe.
What? No, they both were. This is one of the things that I actually really love about this show is the fact that like there's not one person who's the most powerful. There's not one side that's clearly like the most powerful, and then you got a really major underdog, and the underdog has to really fight. Like that's kind of the case, but I'm saying that they make it pretty clear. Like everybody, like this, you have a formidable enemy, but you also have a formidable like protagonist. Like everybody in this show is very capable, and they're all trying to play to their strengths. And it's a chess game. Who's gonna pull out what next?
What's crazy to me is the Marleyans are alive. They're in the world. They're not segregated. They've got all this technology. They've got this power. They live in relative luxury, is what Krisha says, and they have the 9 Titan powers. And they still are having they've been fighting this war for 4 years. They're having a tough time winning this war, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Eldians have nothing. Can you imagine if one of these other countries went to go invade Paradis?
Oh, yeah.
It'd be a freaking slaughter. They have they have like 2 Titan powers
that are secret.
They've got no technology, right? So the Marleyans are barely surviving.
So does the world not know they're there? That's the real question, because they may not know, and it may actually be potentially, I'm not saying is the case, that the rest of the world, that the only country who knows that there's an island full of Eldians
is Marely.
Or is there rumors that that's where the founding Titan live, and he'll jack up your life if you try to go there, so no one goes there?
The walls are there for a reason. I mean, also, this is a new era, right?
And it's a land surrounded by pure Titans.
Filled with pure Titans. You got landmines.
Anybody who tries to go to it, even if the world did know about it, they probably would think twice, because they will get eaten.
And like I said, the technology, this kind of new wave of technology is recent. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so we see the armored train defeated. Reiner waves in Zeke.
Zeke transforms
and comes down. And I was like, man, this would be a great ploy if he was trying to take out Zeke. Sure, it's totally safe. Come on down, bro. There's no... Anyway, I got that idea.
There's
he
definitely
drops
tension.
down, a bunch of people kill it. No. So he drops down. He's fine. And his mission now is to take out all of the boats in the port, which they're now defenseless. So he scoops up a bunch of what looks like
gigantic shells. They're like, yeah.
And as he does, he says, "Isn't
I think they're
war
missiles.
a terrible thing?" And he does his epic freaking pitch,
baseball
wind up.
pitch. Death.
And as soon as he walks, there's a kind of a hole in the wall. As soon as he walks in there, all of the boats you can kind of see down from the port section. Immediately, I was like, I'd be shelling the hell out of that place right now. I don't care what's in there. I'd be shelling. And sure enough, as soon as he throws, the boats immediately start
Open
shelling
fire.
him. I'm like, let's go, right? This is what I would do.
The smart play.
Of course, because I'm kind of rooting for the people from Turkey. You know, I don't know who they are, but I'm kind of rooting for them. I'm like,
come on, kill
let's
those
go.
suckers.
Those Marleyans are terrible, bro.
Against a society. Now, here's the thing: is the Mideast, whatever, they don't like the Eldians either.
It's
They're
true.
bad.
They're
Perhaps
probably
as well,
bad on all fronts.
but maybe at least they're not enslaving them. I don't know.
And at least they hesitated to shoot a girl in the head.
True. They have some
Freaking
conscience.
Marleyans would have just put her in a internment camp. You know, who knows? Feed them to their dogs.
Yeah, feed them to their dogs.
Freaking
Yeah, it's horrible.
savages. So he throws. The shells come back, and he goes, oh, and we're like, ooh, that's the second time in his life he's been scared of something.
Been shot.
And Reiner jumps in. Reiner becomes the shield. The Beast Titan becomes the spear, and they kind of keep throwing. And when after a few pitches, maybe a little sidearm in there, I don't know, curveball, those ships sink. And then we hear the narrator, which is technically Armin's voice, which is interesting. So to me, it's more of a narrator than is Armin talking. But he says, with their fleet destroyed, the Mid-East Atlantic Allied forces signed a peace treaty. The world learned that the era of Titan domination was coming to an end. Marley needed to find the founding Titan and secure it as soon as possible.
Yeah. So we've had this 4-year delay because they've been focused on this other war, and they realized in the midst of this war, the Titan, not only is Marley realizing this, but the rest of the world is also now catching wind that just because you have the Titans doesn't mean you're the biggest, baddest kid on the block anymore necessarily. So they do win, but it's not by much. And this is now new motivation that they have to go and find this founding Titan power, which again seems like it's setting up the rest of the season, rest of the show. And we see some citizens of Marley, and they're reading the newspaper, and they're like, look, our strong army went in there and won the battle. Great. Sounds great. Which basically indicates to me what I've been saying this whole time, which is my bet is that the government inside of Marley is essentially the same government as what was inside the walls, which is one that is secretive, one that is full of propaganda, the one that is out there to control and to manipulate people is not is not to achieve a life of freedom and autonomy and prosperity for all. Like that's not how
they're
this
a
works.
military dictatorship. That's how they work.
Yes.
They don't work out of freedom. They don't work with your best interest at heart. They want power and they want to control it. They want to enslave anybody.
All control, top down controlled, communist state. Like I think that's essentially what Marely is. Okay, so there is no spoiler section. So if you've been watching, thank you.
This whole show is a spoiler section.
Yeah, the whole show is a spoiler section.
We've got a couple things to discuss after the fact.
Yeah, we've got a couple things to discuss, but I just want to do a quick reminder. So we are going to be broadcasting live on Facebook right here, facebook.com/beyondthebasement podcast, right? I should know. I've been saying this for
Beyond the
60
Basement,
episodes.
the complete Attack on Titan podcast.
Yeah, Facebook.com.
By the way, I'm Rachel.
I'm Eric. and
I'm
this is
Peter.
Pete. Yeah, okay. We missed our rent. We
We did our intro it's an outro.
We're just too jazzed up, you guys.
I was
Season
way too
4,
excited
let's
for
go.
season 4. Yeah, flip the
Hype.
table. So anyway, join us here. We'll be live on Sunday nights, probably around this time. We got to get better at posting exactly what time we're going to do these.
Okay, in all fairness, for today, we didn't know exactly when it was going to be
true.
available.
No, it
I
wasn't
was
clear.
checking since 7 a.m., okay, like a mad woman.
Yeah, it wasn't clear.
And it wasn't available until 12:45.
So we will be
PM.
setting a time then to watch each of these as they come out. We are expecting there to be, like there in previous seasons, a 2-half kind of thing. So maybe 12 episodes of this and then a break and then 12 more. So we'll see. But we'll be live here on Facebook. Also, you can catch us on youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. You can go subscribe, like the channel. We have extra content there as well. It's not just the podcast. And then lastly, I really do want to hear, especially if you're an anime only type, hit us up with the emails, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. So that's where you can find us. We also have links to some merchandise in the description down below. It's Attack on Titan related stuff. We are still working very hard to try and get you.
We are going to have our own merchandise very soon. It's going to happen in Jesus' name.
But in the meantime, you can enjoy some actual Beyond the Basement, actual Attack on Titan merchandise through Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, you can have this key. It's really cool.
You have the basement key.
I have the basement key.
Rachel had it all along, you guys.
Yeah, I knew you had it.
So
well, I do live in the
interesting-
basement, so I need a key.
Let's go through our new spoiler section will be, let's go through some comments and then some unrelated stuff.
Maninder Palit said the Mid-Atlantic or Mid-East Allied forces are equivalent to the Ottoman Empire.
I agree.
That makes a ton of sense.
Again, we have World War I, World War II era. The timing is just about right.
Also, Paris wanted us to talk about how we like the new intro. It's actually written by the same
It was
people
creepy.
who made the creepy of season 2.
Could have guessed.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, it didn't make me want to cry like that other one did.
Right.
The other
was
one
freaky
made
as
me
all get
want to
out.
cry and possibly vomit. This one, I was like, all right, it's a little eerie, but I kind of like it all right. It's not too bad. And
Yeah.
I do like that they don't give away tons of spoilers.
That's what I like.
Yes, not tons of spoilers. Also, can we just comment on the artwork generally?
Amazing.
I think it's an improvement, actually. I
It's
wasn't
very
sure.
good. It's very good.
It's,
The
oh my
dimensionality of it, they still include some of the 3D effects. The sound design is all there. I think just as a production value goes, I don't want to discredit the previous. What was the previous studio?
I can't remember.
Hey, this one's Mappa. Is this?
Mappa,
is this
yeah.
Anyway, all props to them. The artwork looks great. Like I don't feel now we haven't seen our main characters yet, and I know they're going to be grown, so they do have to
Well,
change
we
the
might
look a
have
little.
seen one of them at the very,
Yes,
very
at the
end.
very end. There was
When they're
somebody
reading through the
paper,
newspapers,
and we
I
saw
have my theory
somebody-
about who I think it was. I think it was Jean.
I think it was
Okay.
John too.
As
It
soon as I
looked
saw him,
like
I was
Kenny,
like, that was Jean.
but Kenny's dead. So, and I
It's
doubt it's
definitely
Levi.
not Kenny. It wasn't Levi because the hair
was
was the
too
wrong.
tall.
It was the
Facial
same
hair.
color hair that Jean had.
I'm pretty
yes,
sure it's
that's
John.
true.
And yes, he had facial hair, but so did Reiner. And we know it's been 4 years, so he would be the right age for it to be Jean.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we have
And
a,
it's his
a
face.
spy. We have a spy infiltrating into Marely, reading
He was
the
wearing their
newspaper,
clothes.
What if they
like
have
he
mind
was, he was
spies?
like
Which
totally.
goes
Well,
to-
that's possible.
which goes to beg the question: is the racism against Eldian in Eldian like name only? Can you tell if someone's Eldian by looking at them? Is it a skin thing? Is it a
Yeah.
ethnic
I don't know
thing?
because he didn't
Or is
have an
it
armband.
just- Right. Well, is it just the armband? Do you take your armband off and you slip out and nobody knows you're an Eldian?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Because
what
you're
Christian got
close.
in trouble for?
I don't know, but
Well,
what
Or
I'm
did he
asking
have his
is,
armband
He was a
on
poor
still?
little kid. He had his armband on.
if you guys
Okay.
remember, like in Hotel Rwanda, like they're talking about the Rwandan like slaughter and the Natutsis and the I'm sorry, I can't think of both sides,
Neither
but
can
there was
I.
a crazy slaughter, and they could barely tell by the differences in some of their nose or some of their facial features.
It wasn't even really legitimate, but yeah,
Yeah. So they literally chose to, this is the terrible parts of humanity. you know,
I have
we
to look it up.
oppress ourselves, but they were asking people, what's your last name, right? With the machete in their hand.
You can just tell them whatever.
Because if you told them a last name that might be the opposite side, then they could kill you. And so my question is like, do Eldians speak different? Do they have a different religion? Do they look different? Or do they just dress different? Can you sneak in?
Hutu. That was the other.
Yeah. So,
Tutsi and the Hutu.
because if not, you know, obviously we believe that, you know, every person is made in God's image and is worthy of love and not to be oppressed.
Yeah.
So regardless, but could they just toss their armbands out and sneak into the Marleyan
I think
population?
the answer to your question is already in the show, because Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie were all. I guess they are Eldians, but like they were from a totally different culture, from a totally different like place, and they blended in perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, and
Now,
then
granted,
also
they are actually Eldians, so again, if there's a
when
physical difference.
Gabi takes off her armband, the enemy can't tell what she is.
Yeah, they do.
That's
They do
true.
say like, "Oh, she might be
She
an Eldian."
might be, which means she might be not.
So
that.
I wonder how many Eldians have just snuck into Marleyan society, and that's what the owl was.
Yeah, you know, that's a very good point. The owl was, because they didn't know he was a warrior. Oh,
He was
okay,
part
which
of their
brings us-
military.
Which brings us
Yeah.
to the actual spoiler section, which is not spoilers, it's just theories that aren't entirely related to the main content of the episode. All right, so number one, we were discussing this. So it says multiple times that the Marleyans control 7 of the 9 Titan powers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk through the Titan powers that we know right now, okay? We have number 1, the Attack Titan.
Oh, they
which Aaron-
conduct blood tests.
Yeah, blood test makes sense. I think it's a genetic thing.
Oh, Manderpel.
My
Many
comments
Nepal
aren't loading.
That makes sense. So blood tests
Gonna
make sense. So it's a genetic
see.
thing. I can understand that. So that's why they put the armband on you, because they can't visually identify you, but they can identify you via other means. Okay, so going through the Titans really quick. So we have the Attack Titan,
Oh.
which Aaron possesses. We have the Coordinate/Founding Titan, which Aaron also possesses. Then we've got the Colossal Titan, which Armin now possesses. We have the Armored Titan, which Reiner possesses. We have the Beast Titan, which
Zeke
Zeke
has.
possesses. We have the Female Titan, which is still in crystal form, which Annie possesses. We have the Quadruped Titan,
Cart
which
Titan.
We have the backpack
what's
Titan.
his name? Galliard
Galliard.
possesses, and we have the Cart.
Jaw.
The
Wait.
Jaw Titan.
Sorry,
Jaw
Jaw
Titan
Titan,
that-
which was Ymir and is now
No, wait, that's Galliard.
That's
Pierce
Galliard.
is Cart.
Pierce is the Cart Titan.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 8. Okay, that is 8, which means there's one power that's unaccounted for. Now, in the trailer, it seems to give that power away as being this dude with this
He looks like the Silver
We
Surfer.
think-
yeah, Silver Surfer.
But we could be wrong.
We could be wrong. I'm
well,
fully open to that.
Like the Silver Surfer with demon teeth is really what he looks like to me.
But,
Like-
but my point is to say that there's a power unaccounted for. The reason I say that is because in Marely, okay, pre all these events, in Marely they had 7 of the 9 powers. So we know one of those powers, they even knew that one of those powers, the coordinate power, is within the walls.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, up until Aaron shows up, or rather Grisha shows up with the Attack Titan power, should have only been that one within the walls. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because they say of themselves they only control 7. So is that Hammer, Silver Surfer Titan, like, is he the 7th one? Whose side is he on? He, she, whatever. Where do they come from? Like, what I'm saying is there's an entire power that's just unaccounted for, and we
I
can't.
suspected, and I have said to you guys, that they didn't know where the Attack Titan was, that the Restorationists had it, and it was hidden, it was a secret, and
Sure.
Marley didn't know where it was.
That would make sense to me. And so I agree with that, because, again, at the end of season 3, you have the owl, and the owl never explains where he got his power from. What he does say to Grisha is that it's been 15 years. 15 years ago is when I saw, the thing happen with your sister, and he's actually been kind of watching Grisha all along. He's been kind of recruiting Grisha and feeding him information, and he's been, he's like, I've been here throwing Patriots over this wall this whole time to keep my cover, so hoping that one day we could, bring Eldia back to its former glory. But he says 15 years, which is longer than the 13. So either the 13-year rule isn't a thing, which I have a theory might be true, or he acquired that power somehow, with either stole it or something. Like, there's a story there that we don't know. So it's still, now there's still a power unaccounted for, I think, in my mind, but that would mean that here's what I'm saying is, if the Attack Titan power is a power that the Marleyans knew that they had, and then they lost it to a spy or something, they lost it to the Restorationists somehow, then that means there's either another power inside the walls or another power that is just out in the wild somewhere and no one has any idea where it is. Like, neither side knows where it is. So that's possible.
The graphic says they use 7 of the 9 Titan powers to establish military dominance.
Right.
Now, is that after the invasion or is that before the invasion? Because they've never had all 9 powers and they lost 2, which means now that they don't have
the 7 of the 9 powers thing. Grisha says that.
Really?
Yeah, he talks about that. We didn't learn that with just this season. The 7 of the 9 powers thing is
we knew that
from
in
season 3.
So if that means they have 7 of 9 powers and they never had the Owl Titan or the Founding Titan. That's your answer right there. They have all the rest of them. We just haven't seen.
Exactly.
We haven't seen
the explanation
that
is
9th
either
power.
The explanation is either there's a power unaccounted for even by Marely and it's out there in the wild, or there's just a power within the walls of Marley's head that we just haven't seen, which would make sense because we got slowly introduced to the quadruped Titan and so on. Like it's all it makes sense.
What would make sense is he's the weakest Titan, so we would have never seen him because they always keep him back because he's so weak. But this is anime, so it's the opposite. He's actually the most powerful of all Titans.
But they save him.
He's going to trump all of the rest of them.
That's why you somehow haven't seen him.
He'll be able to call lightning down from the sky or something crazy.
Right. Most of the Titans seem to be getting more and more and more epic as we see them.
It's true. So far, the Beast Titan has been the most annoying of all.
Yeah.
The Cart Titan has been kind of a punk, though.
It's true.
He's fast. He almost
They would have killed
Levi.
They would have killed... And they would have acquired
Zeke
one or both of Zeke and Reiner's powers
had he not been there.
He rescued both of them.
More like the Save Your Butt Titan, the Save Your Bacon Titan. Thoughts on our new characters? So we've got Falco, Gabi,
Udo, something like that. Yep.
Udon.
Colt.
Sorry.
I think they all have cool names.
Yep.
They do have cool names.
I kind of hope Falco gets maybe the ability to throw a punch really hard at some point.
I do too.
Falco
punch.
Okay.
I'm excited for Isayama's been great so far at just developing each character and kind of like their interactions and the subtleties between them. I am really excited to see. I really do hope that these characters kind of take on, we get to see more of them.
Yeah.
I also think and hope that we get to see more of the rivalry that we ended season 3 with between the redheaded guy. Can't remember his name now. The dude who blamed Armin and thinks that they should have saved Irwin.
Oh,
he's actually the guy who saved Commander Irwin. He's like, no, there's a reason that I was out there and was able to save him. They decided to save you, and you don't deserve it. And Armin's like, yeah. Anyway, curious to see how that kind of goes because he gets into Aaron's face and yeah. Anyway, new characters seem good.
Yeah, the girl Gabi, she reminds me of Hitch. With the crazy eyes.
Yeah.
She has crazy eyes.
She's kind of interesting. She's like a little bit annoying and she's got giant eyes like Historia, so she's cute.
Flock is the redhead.
Yes, Flock.
Flocko birds. Anyway, but as I've already said, she is pretty confident and actually lives up to all of her big talk. So that's extra annoying.
Yeah.
Or like
a Terrell Owens or something like that. Like he talks mad trash and then makes the catch. You're like, dang, you're good.
Why do you have to be so good and you're so cocky and so good to back up your arrogance?
Or Conor McGregor or something.
Conor McGregor, yeah. Well, he does knock people out with one hit. So
he also talks so much trash.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see them because they kind of have another young crew.
Yeah,
I really do want to see. I mean, yeah, I really do want to see them like. This show has been a heartbreak, and that's the point of the show.
Yeah,
there's just a lot of tragedy, a lot of heartbreak. I would like to see some resolution. I would like to see... I doubt it. It's an anime. I'm sure it's going to end in a tragedy. I'm sure Eren is going to die. I think everybody dies.
Everybody's going to die.
I think this one is a Shakespeare. If I had to predict it, I'd say there's a Shakespeare's tragedy. There's a hint of new life and
there
a newness
after it's all done. There will be a tiny little flower of hope growing out of the snow at the end, and everything else will be destruction and sadness.
But besides that... all your favorite people die, including all the people we just met. So
it's just Shakespearean tragedy we're about to see. And basically, what's the overall message then? Because we've
the world is cruel and it's also beautiful.
I think that's the line, yeah.
We've talked throughout our show, if you've been following our podcast, about lots of the different themes that are showing up in season 1 and season 2 and season 3. You know, fighting for freedom, standing up, doing what is right in the face of adversity, fighting Tatake no matter what you see. A lot of power is corrupt, and we shouldn't have a centralized government.
Freedom, yeah, we shouldn't have a centralized government, and freedom is an ultimate good. Yeah,
yeah, and who gets to decide who what is right and what is wrong? Lots of different themes we've seen, but ultimately the biggest theme I think we see is war is hell. The world is cruel, but it's also beautiful.
Yeah, that's how I think it's going to end. There's going to be a cruel ending, and then there's going to be, but there's beautiful. There's a hope for a future.
There will still be a glimmer of hope.
There's going to be the earth flowered with the corpses of people, and yet there's going to be seeds that spring up from it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can only hope.
Well, I think that about wraps us up here. Thanks again for joining. Thank you for watching / listening. We will be back next Sunday. Now, something to keep in mind, we are still working our way through season 3. So we will be posting these episodes kind of next to each other. I'm going to do my best. I know they're not going to be in perfect chronological order like I had hoped because I'm a perfectionist and I wanted them to be exactly correct. They will be labeled correctly, and of course they'll be on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Shoot, if you've been listening and you made it this far, again, go leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. That'll help other people find the show. And I think we've got a good long chunk of season 4 ahead of us. I'm really excited.
One thing I wanted to say about this is this episode felt completely different than the feel of season 3 and the feel of season 2 and the feel of season 1.
It's unique.
It felt very unique. And so at the end of this, I said, you know what? This thing feels so different. Who knows if any of our theories? I mean, they're probably
they could all just be garbage.
They're all garbage. Everything's going to be completely different because
I'm open.
You see what they did in season 1. Your world is this big, right? But you don't know it. It's everything to you. And they're like, just kidding. Look how much bigger the world is. You're like, people can become titans with shifters and what, right? Then they're like, guess what? The world's even bigger than that. And now in season 4, I think we're starting to see other wars in Marely, and I'm like,
aliens? Are you cosmic?
I'm not taking anything off the table for season 4.
Oh my gosh. The Titan powers
is
are
alien from outer space.
No, there has to be.
Dude, I totally said that one time a long time ago.
It has to be. My 2 theories. Okay, sorry, we're gonna end on this. My 2 theories
That's why they're devils.
Yeah, it's an alien power.
Ymir was an alien that touched.
Ymir, yes. Well,
they're hybrids.
No, the devil that Ymir gets the power
Nephilim.
from. That devil is an alien, and then that anyway. That would explain. Actually, both my theories could converge right there because my theory this whole time has been
science
and not
magic.
That it's not mysterious. That it's all genetic science.
Aw, Nolan says hi, Dad.
Nolan.
Hey, Noli.
All right. Well,
what if they're the Nephilim?
What if they're the Nephilim? Oh my gosh, he's explaining the whole thing. That would be insane.
Mind blown.
Okay. We love you guys. We will see you in the next episode.
Have a great
Season 4, episode 2.
Let's go.
Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.